So we're going to be moving on to our last and final presenter, and we're really excited about that. But before we do that, we also have the H2O hydration. That's Dr. Fox is in the backs there, so if everyone turns around. So they have a nice little booth set up there if you guys have questions about it, talking about micronutrients and hydration. Certainly that is right up their alley. So they also have a vehicle out there to utilize. So if you guys get a chance at the end of this particular period when we're going to be breaking to lunch, we'll do a couple of questions and break to lunch and then come on back for case presentations. So if you guys can, that'd be wonderful. So our next presenter, which I'm really interested to hear because of the life story. It's just, what a cool life story. I've heard some of it earlier in the year, and I'm excited to hear more. There's several trainers that have said that you've given a wonderful presentation, so I can't wait to hear this.
I changed my skill.
So she's going to be talking about sort of wrapping up this whole picture. We talked about her earlier on with mindfulness, endurance athletes, and the practitioner. And certainly you have to have that right mind frame in order to overcome injury or adversity and to be able to get through a long endurance race. So you'll hear what I talk about for Kristie Zahn here because it's interesting when you hear about what she's done and where she's at in life now. But she got her Bachelor of Arts and Business Administration at Carthage College, a Master of Management at Northwestern University, and then a Master of Arts in Religious Studies at Cardinal Stritch University, and she's a certified life coach. So if you guys can put your hands together for Kristie and welcome her to the stage, I appreciate it.
Let me make sure that you guys can hear me okay. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about mindfulness. And I am very mindful of the fact that I stand between a lot of hungry stomachs and restless butts and food that's going to be outside there. So, okay, that's what is. That's the reality, right? That's the present moment. So what's the story that I'm telling myself about what is? Well, that depends. Depends on this party I have going on in my head and whose voice is speaking the loudest. So one of the voices is the white rabbit from Alice in Wonderland. Oh my God, I'm late. I'm late. Oh, we're running late. Everybody's running late. All the speakers went on. Oh, they're late. They're late. I gotta go. White rabbit, Alice in Wonderland, right? Oh, but there's another voice in there. Another person at the party in my brain. This is Eeyore. Yeah, God, but those speakers, they went long, but they were so good. They had such great stuff. I don't know if I got such good stuff. I don't know if I'm going to be able to keep their interest. I don't know, you know. I like this stuff, but maybe other people don't like this stuff. Eeyore. Winnie the Pooh, for those that don't remember Winnie the Pooh. Okay, but then there's somebody else. Da-da-da-da. This person has their own theme music. Da-da-da-da, Wonder Woman. Hey, I can do this. I got good information. I can handle this. But wait a minute. Make room, Wonder Woman. In comes Yoda. Oh, sports medicine grasshoppers. Just feel the force. Feel the force, and you will know mindfulness. So, I could keep going on and on, but I think you're getting the idea. Mindfulness, we know mindfulness is being fully present. And here I am, Kristie, fully present. And yet, there are all these other voices that are chattering away in my head. It's the story that I'm telling myself that is triggering some of those voices, some louder than others. So amidst all of that, where do I find Kristie? Where do I find the speaker who's going to be speaking today? That goes back to getting your own internal GPS. And you find your internal GPS by knowing your intention. So we're going to talk about some of that stuff. Let me see if I'm going to get this thing right. Oops, here we go. Okay, if we want to really talk, I'm going to come over here so I can see it a little bit better and see all of you. If we really want to talk about mindfulness speak, rather than talking about objectives, which is something from the brain that you want to check the box with, intention comes from a deeper place. And so what are my objectives? You can read them out here, but I will tell you what my intention is today. And that is I want all of you to walk away feeling empowered and aware of how showing up and being fully present, being mindful, will enhance not only the quality of your life, but your work, as well as the well-being of those athletes and students and parents who enter into your life. Mindfulness, and I'll just go off a little bit because there was a reference about my story here. I wasn't always a chaplain. I work as a chaplain, or I like to call myself spiritual care specialist. When I bring up chaplain, the story that a lot of people project on me is, okay, we're going to start praying. Not necessarily. So, but the dimensions of spirituality, or the inner landscape of our beingness, that shifts the picture of how we embrace and we work with mind, body, spirit. You know, we throw that word around all the time, mind, body, spirit. We all know about the body, kind of know about the mind, a lot of information we're getting. What is the spirit thing? Really, it gets down to, whether you're religious or not, doesn't matter. Mindfulness is secular. Certainly you can attach to spiritual sorts of things, or you can look at very scientifically, and they have done a ton of research in mindfulness here. But mindfulness really is, how do you process what you're experiencing? What's the story that you're telling yourself? So a little bit about my story, and I'll tell you how telling my story and then processing my story influences what I do. Wasn't always a chaplain, as I was starting out saying. I used to be a business executive. Pretty powerful business executive, senior executive business executive, the only woman in the boardroom business executive at a relatively young age. M.B.A. from Northwestern. I was breaking the glass ceiling and charging forward. My Wonder Woman was on overdrive most of the time. Was I stressed? Yes. Was I overwhelmed at times? Yes. Married to 2 small kids, but you know what? I'm going to pave a way for all those women out there that want to have it all, right? So one day I'm in the boardroom at Rockwell, was Alan Bradley, and gave just an amazing presentation. Left at lunchtime to see my daughter in a play down in Racine, and was driving back down 7 Mile Road, and a coyote jumped in front of my SUV. On instinct, I swerved to avoid hitting it, and it rolled. I died. I was thrown from the vehicle. We don't know who took me to the emergency room over at All Saints, which is, interestingly enough, where I'm working these days. But I coded twice. Once they got my heart going again, and they got me all wired up so they can stick me on a helicopter, got a free helicopter ride over to Freighter, where I was in a coma for a week. When I came back into my body, I was in pretty rough shape. I had basically a traumatic brain injury on the left side, so the right side was paralyzed. I had all sorts of broken vertebrae here, so they had one of those halos, they call halos, nails in your head and all that stuff there. Trach coming out of here, pelvis was broken. I was a mess. And bottom line, I was in the hospital for 4 months. I don't even think they do that anymore. They put you out at a rehab facility. But I was told I'd never walk or talk. And obviously I'm walking, and I'm making up for lost time talking. So, you know, I think it was very good medical advice and prognosis, but reality unfolded a little different. And it unfolded for a number of different choices that I made along the path. And again, we can spend a whole lot of time talking about that, but a number of lessons learned now that I'm through that and in reflecting back. One of which was that when I was lying flat and I had these things coming out of my body all over, I couldn't see who could come in the room, but I could feel them. I could feel if somebody was walking in the room and they were all contracted and they were all tense and they were just going to come in and do what they had to do and leave. And what effect did that have on me? Whether I knew it was a doctor, nurse, whoever, visitor, whatever, their energy that they were bringing into the room, I, without even thinking, would pick up on that energy and I'd respond. They say, the dog whisperer, he's not training the dogs, he's training the people, right? The energy you bring in the room. I could feel that. And yet, if somebody was coming in the room and they had a certain compassion, open-heartedness, a gentleness about them, and yet still very intentional about what they were doing, I felt that too. And immediately there was trust, and with trust there was receptivity, and ultimately there was healing that was going on. So what I was cultivating during that time, if I wanted to tell the story that I was just in this horrible, pitiful place, that's one way of telling the story. The other way of telling the story is that I was going through boot camp. I was going through boot camp for the work that I'm doing now, and that it enabled me to take an intuitive muscle that we all have and develop it, just like all the athletes do, to a very heightened level. And so, as difficult as that might have been, I have gratitude for that life experience, because ultimately it brought me through my business career to making some life choices and to moving into life work that I am excited every day I get up to go do. And so I had to walk through the hero's journey, right? Had to walk through that, come out the other end in order to get to that place. So we thank and are grateful for all of the life experiences that we're going through. Okay, so mindfulness, what does it really mean to be mindful? We've already talked about that. It means we show up as authentically as we can, with all our imperfections, with all our broken bits, with everything. We show up and we fully experience what is. Doesn't mean we like everything. It doesn't mean we're happy all the time. But we experience what is. And how can mindfulness enhance the performance of the athlete and affect the effectiveness of the practitioner? So we're going to get into that a little bit. Okay, so if you really want to impress your friends with your mindfulness knowledge, mindfulness became part of our vernacular back in the 70s, though really within the last 5 years it's been getting a lot of airplay in blogs and online and what have you. Mindfulness came out of microbiologist John Kabat-Zinn, who worked with the University of Boston Medical School. And he found, in working with the MDs there, that a lot of the injuries, a lot of the illnesses that people were dealing with were not responding to conventional Western medicine. And he wanted to complement what the doctors were doing, not replace, not alternative, complement what they were doing by recognizing what is the root cause of some of the healing that's going on or not, as the case may be, with these patients. And what he found was that how people think impacts how they feel, and how they feel impacts how they heal. And so what he wanted to do was he wanted to learn more about that whole thinking process, that mental chatter, and more importantly, what can you do if you want to influence it towards wholeness and healing? And he came up with a very brief definition. Mindfulness is paying attention on purpose to the present moment without judgment. So let me unpack that just a bit. Paying attention. As I started, okay, I was aware of what was. We got timing issues here and lunch is waiting. Okay, that's what is. I could either like it or not like it, but it is what it is, right? We all heard that phrase sometimes. So, but ask yourself, next time you're hearing yourself telling yourself, okay, it is what it is, ask, okay, let me be curious. What's the story I'm telling myself about what is? And then be interested in who's telling the story. Is it my little white rabbit that's all crazy about time? Is it my Wonder Woman that's trying to prove something to the world that they can do the impossible? Who's telling the story? So what's the story I'm telling myself? And who's telling the story? On purpose. It takes focus and practice. Just to be mindful, just to show up. You start with awareness. But I will tell you, the brain is like a wild horse. That's the way it's described. And it loves to wander. So I guarantee you that many of you are very interested in what I'm saying, but you're multitasking that brain with all those voices that are thinking about not only lunch, but what you got to do this afternoon and what you're going to do this weekend, and oh, it's kind of hot out there. And that's what the brain does. But by having the practice of becoming aware, just like the brain is very focused, it's here, and then it starts to wander out there. But when you're aware of that, you bring it back. And then it wanders and wanders and wanders and wanders, and you bring it back. But what are you doing? You're building that muscle. You're building that awareness muscle up. And I will tell you that even people that are diligent meditators twice a day and have been studying and are mindfulness geeks, the mind wanders as well. But I will tell you that the ability to recognize its wandering and to make a choice to bring it back to focus, that time is quicker if you've been practicing and you've got a little better sense of inner resources that you've cultivated. I get a lot of people in the hospital here that'll come to me when a major initiative is going on. We're changing over to Epic, and okay, teach us some mindfulness. You know, at that point, the tsunami's already blowing through, right? I mean, I can do some things to kind of help people, but it's those people that have been cultivating the inner resources right along. They're the people that are going to weather the storm. So you want to start out small, because a lot of people, especially athletes, type A achievers, okay, I'm going to meditate twice a day, and I'm not going to eat any meat, and I'm going to do that, and then within 5 days, So I tell people I teach this class to a number of doctors. You start out with 5 minutes a day. 5 minutes a day in the morning, and I'm going to give you a little meditation at the end. I invite you to try that for a week. It takes about 2-3 minutes. Just start with that. And you'll build. I guarantee you'll build over time. So it takes practice on purpose to the present moment. What the researchers have found, and probably one of the best research institutes that's doing work in this mindfulness space, is right in the University of Wisconsin-Madison, Institute of Healthy Minds. They are doing some, Richard Davidson works with the Dalai Lama, brings the Dalai Lama over for visits periodically. They're great if you can make one of them. And they're looking at what constitutes a healthy mind. They've also done research. He's a hardcore researcher. And what they found is that the human adult mind spends 70 to 80% of the time in default mode and 20-30% of the time in focused mode. Well, what does the default mode look like? Default is either looking forward in worry mode or looking behind in regret or rehash mode. 70-80% of the time. Something could be happening right under your nose, and your brain is over there in La La Land worrying about something. Or beating yourself up about woulda, shoulda, coulda, and now I'm here, and the other 20-30% of the time is in the focused mode. So, being aware of the fact that when the mind wanders, that's what it wanders to. It wanders to a place of worry, or it wanders to a place of regret. The other thing the researchers have found is that there's an interesting mind-body connection in that if you are worrying, you're in default mode, and you're worrying about something happen, the body assimilates it or processes it as if it's actually going on right now. So let's say you're worrying about paying some medical bills, or you're worrying about the reaction your parent's going to have to an injury you just had. The body is going to respond as if you're standing right in front of that parent and they're screaming at you because you were so clumsy and you fell and now you got a broken leg. And so what happens? The body contracts, the blood pressure goes up, adrenals fire, and here you as a practitioner are trying to work with that person. They're not fully present. They're in front of their parent, in their head, worrying about what this reaction can be. And so not only is an injury there, but it's getting exacerbated by the story they're telling themselves about that injury. So again, we're gonna try and do, if we got a little time, a role play, and I'll show you a little bit about how you can unpack that. But here's the last part, most important: without judgment. We are judging machines. We have our biases, we have our perceptions, we have projections. We are judging. And we are probably the toughest judge on ourselves. We can be the most compassionate, giving people in the world to everybody else out there, but we're the loser that tripped in the little hole in the grass here that did this stupid thing. And I always do stupid things like that. Again, one of those voices, Eeyore, I call it Eeyore. That's another little trick, is you can name them and give them personalities, because then they become out there. They're not you. They're just part of your peeps out there that you're working with. And you begin to recognize when they're speaking. And then you decide whether you want to listen to them or not. A lot of people just let the tsunami of these thoughts come at them, and they just automatically click into assuming that this is real and reality. And as I said, mind-body connection is pretty tight, so they just start to make that story, that thought, that illusion a reality, and it begins to take form in their bodies. So, real important. There are weekend workshops in self-compassion and self-care. Don't have a lot of time here, but be aware when your judgment is skewed negative, and especially skewed negative to yourself. So I talked about the GPS being intention. Intention really drives everything. That's the juice. So think about athletes that are in the zone, right? What's their intention? They got the eye on the prize. They see where they're going. Their intention is clear. Motivation aligned. They are moving. They're focusing on the outcome, and it expresses itself, or it manifests itself in their behaviors, in their thoughts. Attention, aware of the distractions. Like I said, I came into doing this little session here fully present, with giving some important information out to some amazing people. And yet, chatter, up there's the clock up there. But you know what? I'm aware of it. Okay. Again, a Zen technique is you just acknowledge it, and then you choose to look someplace else. The Zen masters say, I see you. I see you, Mara. Mara is doubt and fear. But, yeah, okay, I see you. I see you, White Rabbit. I know you're there. Okay, just chill for a little bit. I got important stuff to do here. Okay, so you're aware of that. Are you aware of what your triggers are, too? And again, that non-judgment thing, I come from a long lineage of Wonder Women. And if Wonder Woman is not doing the impossible every moment of the day, that judgment kicks in, where I'm really hard on myself. But if I'm aware of the fact that that's a trigger within me, I got to say, okay, all right, that's Wonder Woman talking at me here. I got to be more gentle with myself. We got a lot of important information to get out there. It's going to be fine. The roof is not going to fall in if we go 5-10 minutes over here. We're just going to be gentle. We're just going to move. And so I have an influence on my attitude, which is self-regulation of negative interference. There's a couple times where I come into a patient's room as the chaplain, introduce myself, and I have a fellow recently, "You can't be a chaplain." "Oh, yeah, I am." No, you're a woman. Don't you read the Bible? It says in the Bible that women can't be ministers. Now, you're talking to an M.B.A. senior executive that used to go to battle with all the CEOs and the C-suite out there. And I got this guy laying in a bed who's telling me that I can't do what I spent how many years getting a second graduate degree getting to do. Sure. But then it's like, okay, I'm getting triggered. And this is just going on in my head. So I can make a choice. And the way that I allow myself to make a choice is I don't react. I choose to respond, right? So another little tool, one of the first tools I told you is, what story are you telling yourself? The second little tool is the intentional pause. So powerful. Again, when I'm teaching doctors in the emergency room, when they're life and death from room to room, it's not like they're going to sit there and go om before they go from room to room. Somebody's heart's not beating. They got to get it going. But if they take 5 seconds, 3 seconds, and just there's something about an intentional breath that reboots the body. It used to be when I got a page and I had to go to the emergency room, dun, 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 Wonder Woman going off, doing her thing, ready to go, and I could feel my body tensing up, and I put all this expectation on, I'm going to do some amazing stuff there. But I recognize when Wonder Woman gets triggered, right? So now what I intentionally do, and it's a practice, you got to practice it, is before I go in, okay, go in. And I will tell you another little bit of mindfulness impact. If you hold your center very calm, very strong, and it's hitting the fan out there, it's amazing if you can hold the center. I'll be in the middle of the emergency room where some semi blows up on the freeway and bodies are flying every which way, and people are a little frantic, maybe a lot frantic. And we don't come in as spiritual care people and do our thing until family shows up or they're done with the people, the patients they're working with. So what do? Sit there? No. You can choose. And this, the practitioners here too, the trainers, a lot of times you've got the medics coming in and they're wrapping people up and they're doing stuff. And what do? Just sit there kind of wait until they're done? Sort of. But you can check in with yourself and be real mindful of what energy are you holding right now? Are you holding energy that's coming from an ego or from a Wonder Woman or a Superman mentality that's going to, as soon as these guys are done, I'm going to go in there and save the day? That carries a certain vibration. Another vibration is, I'm just going to hold my center and open my heart and just offer caring, compassion for this frantic situation. And when it's my time, I will go in. Give it a little try next time. Just starts with awareness, starts with being mindful of the energy you're bringing into a space, and then making a choice how you want to enter that space. Okay, and I am mindful of time, so I'm going to move. The benefits of mindfulness in the sports world, it's a matter of knowing what's going on internally, so it can influence what you're doing externally. And Crosby, they're going to get copies of this PowerPoint, possibly, or not?
It's available online right now.
Okay, cool. All right, so I'm not going to go through this. I think it's self-evident. I think the coaches and the professional sports world is starting to recognize that psychological skill training is a big deal. And, it used to be way back, sort of New Agey vogue, they were doing self-hypnosis with people or athletes, is to get them hypnotized so they could focus. And it works in some cases, but Hypnosis has a certain feel of releasing power or letting your power go, whereas mindfulness is taking your power back, being fully present and making choices and choosing and having the awareness of what motivates you and working with that empowerment to bring forth your best performance. Okay, I'm going to move through this. It's getting to the attention and the acceptance of the experience. The other thing that's very, very potent in mindfulness is the amount of resistance and distraction we have to what is. There's a part in this where I'm going to talk about pain management. And the Zen masters talk about the 2 arrows. The first arrow is pain itself. It happens. It's real. There's no affirmations or pretty little things you can say and lay over it that's going to take away from the fact that this bone is broken, it's sticking out of my leg, and it hurts like hell, and I am scared to death, right? That's real. That's pain. But the second arrow is, remember that, what's the story I'm telling myself? Oh my God, I'm never going to run again. I'm never going to walk. I'm never going to be able to perform to a level where my parents are going to be happy with me and my parents are going to love me because now I can't be an athlete anymore. So while you're busy trying to work on whatever is going on here, their mind is in a different place. And if it's in a self-critical place, which we all adults, healthier or injured, tend to go to, it's going to skew to a negative self-critical place. And what happens? The body responds as if whatever it's hearing is the truth. So it's going to contract up. So we want to break that up a little bit. Okay, so a couple things I've talked about. The intentional pause. You can use it with your students. Okay, I got you. I'm here. Just take a breath now. Now, when they're taking their breath, be mindful of your breath. Take it with them. Remember what I said? You know those things that in musical instruments, those metronomes that go at different levels? There's a quantum physics term called entrainment, and that is that they tend to synchronize over a period of time. So if you've got a frazzled parent whose brains are falling out, and you've got a student that is scared to death and in excruciating pain, and you come in there, Superman, what's going on? All that energy is just bouncing all over the place. It's chaotic, and it complicates the situation. But if you've got that frenzy going on there, and like I said about the emergency room when I walk in, and I can walk in, I can just hold my peace, just hold my center. Trust me, it takes practice to do that, because the psyche wants to just get seduced by the drama and get into the whole flow and feel important, like the rest of the people are feeling important because they're doing so much. So for you to not do, but to be, and to just hold a place of peace, really powerful. So the intentional pause, letting go of the pain. We're going to talk about pain in a minute, so I won't spend too much time with that. A technique, a mindfulness technique that you can learn in another longer workshop is the cooling down period, and using the mindfulness body scan to just really talk to the body and allow the body to relax. I mean, there are some practitioners out there, I happen to be one of them, that believe that every cell has intelligence. Every cell remembers trauma. Every cell needs love and healing and nurturing energy. And there are ways and techniques through certain meditations, guided meditations, to bring that energy and healing to every soul. There's a thing called somatic therapy, where you actually work with a therapist. Some psychologists are doing this, where you actually work with parts of your body that have been traumatized. Actually, parts of your body have post-traumatic stress disorder. And you work some of the trigger point therapy. It'll be interesting if you're needling and all of a sudden it triggers something and you get a reaction. It could be a reaction that is the whole emotional story that's underpinning the suffering that's going on with that particular thing. Okay, mindfulness meditation. Meditation takes a lot of different forms. Two big ones are contemplative. Contemplative tends to be like the relaxation response. You have a word, a phrase. Transcendental meditation was all popular in the rage at one time. You have something and you say it over and over again gently. The mind wanders and you bring yourself back to that word. Or you're looking at a flame. You're contemplating. Introspective tends to be the mindfulness. And that's, you got this whole reality TV show going on in your brain, but you're not up there in it. You're just watching it. And you're watching it with curiosity, not with judgment. Not with anticipating X, Y, Z, and then I'm going to do this, that, the other, and actually engaging with it. You're watching it. And a lot of people, when they run, that's as much meditation as a guru monk sitting, chanting Om. Om, by the way, is contemplative. Chanting something. It's running and just observing what's going on in the brain. Okay, and there are other different protocols out there. If you're working with a coach who knows mindfulness, they can walk you through a guided imagery. I use it a lot in pain management, where when there's pain management, I've got a patient that's very focused on the pain. That's real. And immediately they attach a story around that pain, which makes it suffering. And again, I'm not going to just magically make the pain go away with my Reiki or any of the other things that I'll do. But what I want to do is I want to soften the contraction that's going on with their body. So I give them a story. I give them something to get their attention on so that they choose to think about this rather than focus 100% on this. Or, quick story, I just had a patient, I got a referral from a doctor, pain, broken hip, and she told me that it just felt like there was flames going on the hip. And so I assessed whether she was receptive to this guided meditation. She's laying down, I'm talking to her, I said, okay, in your mind's eye, we're going to play a little game, use a little imagination. I want you to imagine that there's this forest fire going on in your pelvis region. And it's just like you see on the TV in California where it's all sorts of flames all over the place. And now, I want you to see it raining on it. I want you to see the rain coming down. Anyways, I won't take all the time up here, but we use the metaphor of rain as basically encouraging her to think loving, nurturing, caring thoughts about that part of her body. And even though it's a story, it's imagination, as she was listening to the story and imagining rain going on this forest fire that was her broken pelvis, you could see her whole body just relax and go. Okay, now here's the divine mystery. The interesting thing about it, after we were all done, I pulled her out. She had this cartouche, for some of you that know what a cartouche is. It's basically hieroglyphics, Egyptian hieroglyphics. She had this little jewelry thing on her. It was turned over upside down. So when I was done, I go, oh, that's really, because obviously I like my jewelry. I said, oh, that's interesting jewelry. Can I look at that? We turned it over. All the hieroglyphics on it were all water hieroglyphics, which it was just, I says, you're wearing water. It's all in your name as water symbols here. So next time you have this pain in your hip, I want you to take a deep breath. I want you to think of water. Think of water cooling that area. It's a mental game. It's, some people say, a little woo-woo. But scientific research will demonstrate what the brain believes, the body receives. And so if that little imagination game works and the pain goes away, hallelujah, right? Okay, there is a book, and I've got examples of the two books out there. You can take a look at it. Really good, The Happiness Trap, that has a lot of good protocols for people in general on mindfulness. Pain management, I talked about the two arrows. Move towards the unpleasant. Again, a lot of times people will tell me, what do you mean move towards the unpleasant? I am in the middle of the unpleasant. I can't think of anything else but the unpleasant. I'm right here with the unpleasant. The way that you move towards the unpleasant is a place of nurturing, a place of healing, I tell people sometimes that I'm working on, I want you to move towards the pain as if it was your child who just really scraped their leg in a bad way. Would you run up and shake it and be judge? No, you want to move towards the pain with compassion and nurturing and recognizing, wow, this is a big deal, and I've got to be mindful of how I'm taking care of myself right now, how I talk to myself. Positive self-talk to the degree that you can override the critic gremlin that's talking. Positive self-talk. And part of seeking the pleasant and broadening to the awareness is just what I'm talking about with this positive self-talk. Not only are you aware that this is excruciating pain, but you visualize or you talk to yourself about, I call it some space and grace, but that thing in your mind that you put around that pain to reassure that pain that it's going to get taken care of. This hurting is going to go away. We're going to get the help we need. The metaphor is, imagine a tablespoon of salt, and you put the tablespoon of salt in a glass of water. Well, that's really salty, right? But if you take a tablespoon of salt and put it in Lake Michigan, it gets diluted. That pain gets diluted. If you can somehow get their mind on something other than the pain right in front of them, and something that is reassuring, that is nurturing, that is healing in some way. And when you've got that progression and you're at this place where energetically we're balanced a bit, then people can make choices on how they want to respond versus reacting out of just a knee-jerk fear of some kind. Again, another book out there, You Are Not Your Pain. Excellent, excellent book. Okay, just going to say on this one, fear, how do you tell your story? Fear, what does it stand for? Forget everything and run. That's the fight or flight response, and we all have it. It all triggers at some point in time. But what's another way of telling your story? Fully excited and ready. You know, that sort of fear can be channeled into incredible strength. You know, you talk about these people that pick up cars when the adrenaline is running because of their compassion and they're ready to get in there and take care of things. Fully excited and ready. On my particular, if you say car accident, because it's one way of telling the story, as part of my complementary healing journey, I spent time, after I went through all the traditional therapies, with Peruvian elders and Native American elders. And when I was asked to tell my story, because that's part of the healing process, is telling your story, I would start out saying, well, I was in this car accident with this coyote. That was no accident. That was a sacred initiation. And that sacred initiation, as difficult and brutal as it was, now this was 20 years ago, is going to enable you to be of higher service in this world in some way. And whether you get into the New Agey spin on that or not, think about it. If I tell people I'm in an accident, I'm a victim, right? I tell people I went through a sacred initiation. Wonder Woman likes that, you know. But the truth of the matter is that anybody that's been through anything traumatic, they have a choice. They can either get stuck in the tomb of ain't it awful, or they can see it as a womb to be rebirthed into something that's stronger and more able to be of service in a higher capacity than they were prior to it. Okay, role play. Let's take 10 minutes, and I'm going to take my interns here. I'm going to have you stand up here. All right? And I'm going to let you be the student that's just popped his ACL running. And I'm going to let you be the CEO, dad, high achiever, so proud of his son who is the star athlete. And I am the the trainer that's just come up in this situation. So you're going, ow, 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 this hurts, right? So let's go with it. Okay, and what are you doing, Dad?
Helping him.
Okay, so, okay. So, one of the things, I'm going to freeze frame a little bit. One of the things that I did before I even started was I checked in with myself. Okay, did I just come racing over here? No, I just... Now, Dad is over here. Sometimes you're being a mild dad. That's my son there, do something, I do something. And you're like, ah! And you have to, again, like I said, in the craziness, you hold your center, right? And then I take my eyes. You might be looking down like this, but to the degree that I can be front and center with you, that I can be, there is this energetic field that as we get next to each other is impacted by each other. I know there's all quantum physics stuff about that. But if I can come into that with a certain amount of nurturing and comfort and intention, holding my power, I am here to help this guy who's got this painful thing. So can you tell me what happened? What am I doing? Asking him to tell me a story. If he starts to tell the story, it's out there versus in here. So there's an objectivity, there's a distance between us, right? So he's starting to tell the story. He's telling me you popped your ACL. Tell me about it. Tell me, how does it hurt?
Just hurts.
It hurts like hell! Now, that sounds like he's being fully present, right? It hurts. I'm getting him to try and talk about the pain, but what's going on in his head? He's thinking about, oh my God, my dad's here and he's going to be pissed because I hurt myself. Oh my God, I'm never going to be able to run again, and I was going to be in that competition and get that big trophy, and now I'm not going to be able to it. He's going to have all this judgment. So to the degree that I can accept the fact that there's a whole lot of things going on up here, but I can focus him back down on this here. Again, you got to be careful with touch. Sometimes touch is a good thing, sometimes not. But sometimes just a gentle touch. You want to get real woo-woo? Put your hand down here, palm, facing wherever the injury is. You don't have to be a Reiki master. If you have intention in your heart for something compassionate and healing, just here. But I'm here. And that's what it comes natural now. But just assuring somebody, I'm here. I'm here. I'm going to work with you on this. Okay? I'm here. Now you got to be dragging and pulling my shoulder and trying to get my attention, right? I'm here. Okay, just a minute. I turn fully to Dad, and I talk to Dad. It's your son. He's been hurt. How you feeling?
Nervous.
Nervous, yeah. Okay, but I'm here, and we're going to give him the best of all the medical attention we can, okay? So we gotta work with me here a little bit and trust me on this, okay? Let's take a breath. Okay, focus back on here. Okay, and so I start what the therapists do or the practitioners do and start to do an inventory of the injury and what have you, all the while being mindful of the energy that I'm holding in the situation. At some point in the conversation, and you will know when your heart wants to speak, you want to look this person in the eye, if it's authentic and genuine, and say, I know this is hurting. People want to be seen, especially when they're vulnerable. I know this is hurting. But I assure you, I am going to give you the best of my ability, and we're going to take care of this, okay? Didn't say I'm going to heal it. Didn't say I'm going to fix it. I am going to do what I have control, which is I am going to give you the best of my ability. And I am going to give your son the best of my ability to take care of this situation. Now, normally when we're in flow and we're going through all the technical stuff, who's got time to say that? I will tell you that recently I had a major surgery, and it was in the pre-op room, and the doctor came forward and said all the stuff that they say pre-op, And at the very end of it, she leaned over and she looked me straight in the eye and she goes, I know you've come a long way. I want to reassure you that I am going to give you the best of my expertise. And I can. I've got you on this, okay? Who says that stuff? Maybe more and more people are, and maybe more and more people should. But I'll tell you, my level of anxiety went from here down to here because I had this person, this expert, that opened their heart and reassured me that they were going to be fully present to give me the best of their effort. And that meant everything to me in that moment. We all have opportunities. It takes a second, it takes 20 seconds to do that in an interaction, but we're so busy trying to do, we forget that we have a human being that we're working with who's afraid and vulnerable. And so, okay, thank you. Let's give it up for our volunteers here. All right, the little meditation, and then I'm going to let you go. So one of the areas of self-care is just a little bit of meditation, and I get tons of people saying, I can't meditate, I don't know how to meditate, I'm too restless to meditate. So I'm going to invite you now to put both feet on the floor. You don't have to do this. This is voluntary. Don't cross your arms. Put your hands on your lap or on the table or something in an easy place. And I'll guide you through this. I would encourage you to do this at the end of the day when you've had a shit show of stuff coming your way and you just want to release it all, right? So, the reality is, whatever came your way, there's nothing that you can tell yourself in your brain that's going to make it any different. It is what it is, right? Okay, I accept it. I accept that I had a flat tire. I accept that some yahoo cut me off on the freeway and practically killed me. I accept it. Doesn't mean I like it. Doesn't mean I agree with it. But I accept it. I'm not going to fight it. The more I fight it, the more I build up energy, negative energy that causes me stress. Whoever did to me what they did to me, they're probably fine, probably having a drink and watching TV. I need to just release it and let go. So I'm going to guide you through this in a second, but as you breathe in your mind, you say, I accept. You hold your breath for a second and say, it's over. That's mindfulness. It's over. You know what? Things happen in an instant, and then they're done, and then it's the next thing. Now, we tend to pull them forward and ruminate over them to death, but the reality is it's over. So you breathe in, I accept. You hold the breath for a second and say, it's over. I let it go. And you don't have to get all dramatic about it, and just try it. See what stories, like little flies, want to come next to it and attach to it. And just be curious about it. Be curious what I'm letting go of all of this. Okay, whatever. Simple. The elders in the rainforest and mountains like this. Simple. Keep it simple. Okay, so what I want you to do is gently close your eyes. I will say the I accept. So take a deep breath in. I accept. Hold the breath for a second. It's over. Let it out. I let go. One more. I accept. It's over. I let go. One more time. I accept. It's over. I let it go. Okay. Play with it. I just invite you all to play with it. I have several cards outside here as you're going out that you could pick up one of each. One of it has this meditation on it. It's powerful. I've had a lot of people that have tried it and had good results with it. So I'll end on that.
Thank you. Thank you, Kristie. Fantastic.